not in keeping with the fundamental premise of Social Security. But if that's your view, I'll be glad to consider it when you do. Yes, ma'am.
I actually have a succinct question. If in fact the mandate from the voters in 2010 was to deal with issues of budget, spending, revenues, etc., why is Congress spending so much time debating social issues instead of dealing with those economic issues?
What social issues?
Abortion, for one.
We have not had a single debate that I know of on the floor of the Senate that had
The House
concerns
has,
abortion.
and you're part of Congress, so that's why I'm asking the question.
But ma'am, my answer is that I do not know of a single debate. I'm sure there's been some speeches made, but the debates on the floor of the Senate have not been about quote abortion or other issues. All the way in the back there.
Senator, thanks for being here. Quick question. I would like your definition of victory in Afghanistan and Iraq, and as a follow-up, how many casualties and how much money are you willing to expend to obtain your definition of victory?
My definition of victory, sir, has been and always will be a nation that has a modicum of democracy, but most importantly, no longer poses a threat to the national security of the United States of America. In September, we will commemorate the 10th anniversary of 9/11. Those attacks at 9/11 originated with Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. If we fail in Afghanistan, and we left once before, after they drove out the Russians, then there is every likelihood, in my view, that Afghanistan could return to a base for attacks on the United States of America and our allies. So my definition of victory is a country that stumbles along with great difficulty, as the Iraqi government is stumbling along with great difficulty, but no longer poses a threat to the security of the United States of America and our allies. We are withdrawing from Iraq, as you know, although I think we should leave a certain presence to help them in certain areas, but that's just my opinion. And in Afghanistan, as you know, the President has ordered withdrawal. Problems in Afghanistan or Pakistan, which emphasize cooperating with the Taliban and other elements, the Khani network, corruption, and also the perception now in the region that we are withdrawing and they have to remain and are making certain accommodations. Yes, sir.
Sir, I'm sorry, but you didn't answer the second question, which I think is more important. To obtain those goals,
Yeah.
laudable or not,
Yeah.
how much money and how much
I
money
have to give you the budget. It's several $100 billion a year. How much did 9/11 cost? How much did 9/11
Sir,
cost?
but I'm asking.
I will send you the exact number.
This is my point. If I
My
may
answer is I will send you the exact number.
Sir, my point is how much more, not how much has been.
Yes.
How much more are you willing to
My
spend?
answer is I will send you the exact number. But it is not cheap. It is not cheap.
Well, how many more casualties?
It is not cheap. It's very expensive. We are leaving Iraq, as I told you, which is a very dramatic reduction, as I mentioned, and there will be a very expensive. I will send you the numbers, sir.
Sir, I spent a year over there. How many casualties? Do you have a number? Is it worth 10,000 more? Is it worth 15?
Sir, it's not worth a single casualty. Why? Hearts go out to the families and the friends of those who have sacrificed. But I can tell you this, I know what it's like to lose a war. And the one thing about those young men and women who are serving,
Sir,
they don't want to lose this war.
I'm aware of that.
Go ahead.
I'd like to answer that question a little bit differently, and thank you for being here, Senator. We appreciate your service over the years. Haven't always agreed with you, but I have a good question for you.
Adjustment Act, which caused a lot of this. So, but I can't accuse them, liberals, of criminal activity. But I can say to you, I do not understand why Franklin Raines, Diane Johnson, and others have not been called to account for the tens of millions of dollars in salary they were paid during the lady here.
Is there any possibility of legislation being proposed that would have the 40% of Americans that are not paying any income taxes now would have to pay a small amount, even $10 a month would raise billions every year, and we would and balancing the 40% need to have skin in the game.
Numbers about 47%. But let me remind you, if I could, seriously, I'd like to remind you that those people pay sales tax, excise tax. I know, and they do too. And they do too. Wait. I mean, there are people who, every time they conduct their daily lives, they have to pay taxes. And I want us to, honestly, I do not think that to increase taxes on people that are already paying certain taxes, such as sales tax and others, that they are paying some taxes for people in this country.
They got plenty of time to do it.
We have unemployed and underemployed, and people who are not employed. I would say that they've been so unemployed so long that they have left the unemployment roll. So I think we should try to fix this economy for them to help them in probably some of the toughest times of their lives. Yes, sir.
I do believe that many of the problems that we have in the United States we solved. There wasn't a hierarchy, there was arrogance in Congress. And I do believe that if you live like we live, all of the people in Congress have the same kind of benefits that we have. And I'm asking a question now. Would you be willing to go back and make that kind of change?
Sure.
Oh,
Let me just give you an example. In the 1980s, I stopped taking pay raises, and I give all of my additional pay raises, which is now a fairly good amount of money, to charity. And so, I know what it's like to live in fairly rough conditions.
I know. Let me ask you this. Do you believe that if the Congress had the same medical plan and the same benefits that we have, that a lot of things would change for the better?
I don't know, but
Why would you have a different plan? Why would you be separate?
actually we have the same as the federal employees do. Now, if you think federal employees should have a different plan, then that's a good, legitimate question. But the fact is, it's the same as the federal employees benefit plan. I'd be glad to send it to you. It's not a unique plan. Man, you're up.
I have a very short question.
I'll be right with you, Sergeant. You're next. Thank you.
I'm not so hot on the idea of raise taxes, not raise taxes. Because to me, that's too simple a solution. What I'd like to know is what's being proposed in Congress. What are you doing to structure the taxes so that it encourages the corporations who are sitting on those trillions of dollars to actually create jobs onshore?
The first thing, and I've said this for a long time, is lowering the corporate tax rate. Boo. But see, when I talk to business persons, large and small, they say, look, our taxes, like doing business in the United States of America, are the highest in the world. And so, and also, and at the same time, close those loopholes that they take advantage of, which makes some corporations like GE pay no taxes, that we need a fairer flatter tax code so that everybody is on the same level. That's number one. The other thing is, of course, is this business of government regulations. They want to know what their environment is going to be if with all these new regulations coming down the pipe. And the third thing is for us to start having an environment where people can be sure of what their economic future is. And that will require investment of these $1.5 trillion that they are sitting on. Sergeant?
Sir. I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
Americans are taught in school to believe in democracy and majority vote. So my first question to you is, why is it not a majority vote in the United States Senate, and it's dysfunctional because of the filibuster, and it's been going on forever, and it's worse now than ever before?
Can I respond to that in a minute? Our founding fathers made it very clear that the reason why we would be bicameral is because the Senate and the House would be different. I believe that it was Benjamin Franklin said that the Senate is the saucer that cools the tea, I believe was that line. So the fact is that the 60-vote filibuster has been misused, and it has been inspired a negative reaction. But there would be no reason to have two houses of Congress if you had simple majority votes. And that happens to be my view. Well, I'm glad to send you. Look it up. There's the Federalist Papers that I would be glad to send you where our founding fathers debated and discussed.
I've read the Federalist Papers, but there's nothing about a filibuster in those papers.
There is a link in there about the Senate having the ability.
It's a different house.
Right. Go ahead.
Just to comment on that for just a second, I don't want to belabor the point, but the presumption when the American people elect a Senate of 100 senators, that 51 of those senators makes it a majority and should be able to move a question. The Senate has, by its own rulemaking, interrupted that democracy that the American people have elected.
I respect your view, and I understand the frustration that you feel because of the gridlock. So I understand your point.
The second question is an opinion question, but do you think that the Republican Party is going to continue to practice economic sabotage on our economy until the next election?
Could I say, sir, thanks again for your service. Thank you for serving to start with.
We see it on TV every day.
Thank you again for serving, and you too, Chief. Wake up. But I want to say to you, sir,
You wouldn't say that for a long
your view of what the Republican Party is doing with 1/3 of the government is very different from my view. In other words, my view, sir, is that for nearly 2 years, we went on a spending spree, and the largest expenditure